Hello, Kim.
Welcome to the Confidently Controversial Podcast.
Hello to everyone out there. Thank you so much for joining us today for another wonderful episode.
Yeah, you don't even know if it's wonderful yet, but you're assuming it's going to be.
Well, I mean, it's always fun.
It's because we spin magic, Emily.
Is that what we do?
Yeah.
That's what they call it.
You should see my hands. I'm spinning the magic.
Spinning the magic. We're making it all happen. Yes, I'm very excited. It's always great when I don't have to pick because I don't have to do the work ahead of time. I just show up and then you talk about a movie and I watch it. And I just give you my opinions.
And you... So far, well, you've kind of liked my picks. You haven't been really super excited about one of them, at least.
Well, you did make me watch Weekend at Bernie's. Yeah. That did happen.
Nobody out there is sympathetic to your cause. You realize that, right?
It's okay. It's okay.
We had to go to a party where we had someone do an impersonation.
Can we? Let's show out your sister. It was your sister, and she did an amazing impersonation of Bernie walking around. Which I didn't even know was a possible thing to impersonate.
I didn't know it was an impersonation to do, but she did it, and she killed it.
She killed it. Like, her whole face, the way she did the smirk, and she just, like, walked, and her body was all shaking around.
And she was, like, going up to other people at the party.
She was like, who am I? It was very, very, very funny.
It was funny.
I really enjoyed that. Yeah. No, I feel like it doesn't really even matter what movie it is because, let's be honest, they're movies.
Right. But you would think...
They're supposed to be entertaining.
Sure. You would think from the level of pressure we put on ourselves in choosing these movies that it meant something.
It does mean something.
Oh, you just said it didn't.
Like, I'm saying it doesn't matter in terms of, like, it's going to be fun.
Sure.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
It's true.
We want to talk about interesting thing.
Yeah.
It's so funny, though, too. I have to say, every time we do an episode, I go home and my husband's always like, well, what did you listen? What was the movie? Like, he's always excited to hear, especially on the days where you pick. So he's always like, well, what was the movie? And then I tell him and, like, have, like, a whole other conversation about it. So it's like I do the podcast and we talk about the movie. And then I do, like, a secondary podcast with my husband. Explaining it to him.
Sure.
And he didn't watch as many movies as I did when we were younger. So I feel like he's always just like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And he's always pushing me to do like movies like Predator and stuff that I just like Die Hard. Like, I don't know. At some point we'll get there.
I keep saying, I'm like, all these people say we need to do boy movies. I'm gonna do a boy movie, and I like look it up and I'm like actually Googling like boy movies from the 80s. And it's like movies, and then it just shows you movies with cute boys from the 80s. I'm like, that's what I want to do.
I have a couple on my list that I'll get to. And that, we always say
I feel like we're ready yet.
Are we ready? Are we ever ready for anything? No, we're not. But no, I really think that we've done some doozies, and we encourage everyone to go back and listen to those previous shows because they do stick with you. I mean, we just our last episode was Rain Man. I've been talking about that to anyone who will listen to me. Yeah, quoting it left and right. It's like it just resurfaces all of these things when you watch them again, which is kind of fun.
As luckily we're older ladies, so if we use out.
Always like
I know. I'm obsessed. I have a problem.
You do have a problem. Like, we're not old.
Okay. Well, either way, I'm trying to make a point.
Okay. It's like people still consider Jennifer Aniston like sexy and cool, and she's like,
and I look just like her.
But she's way older than we are.
Okay, good for her. Okay. She takes those vital proteins. Not an ad.
What?
She needs vital proteins.
What's a vital protein?
I don't know. It's some powder you put in your drink, and it has collagen and stuff.
Oh, well, it's vital protein. If you want to really prove your worth, you can sponsor this show. Sure. Get us some vital protein.
See what you can do to this face.
See what you can do. See what you can do to help us. And, like, the seasons are changing, so, like, my skin is just a mess.
Yes, well, it's, a lot of people don't know, and it won't be by the time I release, but it's Labor Day weekend.
Yes, it is.
And that's a big deal for us.
It's such a big deal for us as laborers.
As well-known laborers.
Yes.
No, because we live at the shore, and it's the unofficial end to summer.
It is. Yesterday, there was a ton of traffic coming out of town. Like, it was all backed up late.
Oh, really?
Like, when we got home, we drove up to the mall. Because, tomorrow is also the first day of school.
Tomorrow is for you?
Yeah, it's the first day of school.
I think the other school starts on Wednesday.
Yes, well, my kid's school starts tomorrow.
Okay.
So I'm, ever on top of things. Went school shopping the day before school started. So we went up to the mall, and then on our way back, it was like bumper to bumper.
Going north.
Ugh. Yeah, I think people are just like, you know what, I'll sit in traffic tonight just so I can have my day tomorrow before going back. So, so it's definitely crazy times, but it's almost fall, and that is, even though it's like 90 degrees outside, I still feel like fall's coming.
Yeah, we saw a leaf the other day, and I knew it was coming.
Kim saw an acorn on the ground and stopped and paused and picked up the acorn. And I was like, what are you doing? She's like, it's fall. It was enjoyable to see happen. So, all
right. Well, it doesn't seem like we have very much to talk about this morning. We're kind of grasping here, but
we're spinning gold. Did you not say that?
Magic or gold?
One or the other. Does
Golden magic.
Wasn't it Rumpelstiltskin who spun gold?
Out of hair?
Is that what he did?
No.
What?
I don't know.
No, wait. Now we gotta talk about it. Okay.
Sleeping Beauty.
What? Huh? No, she pricked her finger on a spinning wheel. There's a lot of spinning wheels back in the day.
spinning wheel. But
Rumpelstiltskin, remember the woman was like, she would turn hay. It wasn't hair, it was hay. Mm-hmm. So it was like they put the lady in, like, she was in a jail, and I think like the queen or something wanted her killed and was like, well, I won't kill you if you can spin all this hay into gold. And she was like really sad about it, like, well, I can't possibly do that. Right, and then Rumpelstiltskin, who was like a troll.
But he was a bad guy, right?
Yes, because so Rumpelstiltskin came along and he was like, well, I'll do this, but you have to like promise me something. Mm-hmm. And she was like, well, whatever. And he's like, well, you'll name your first child after me or something. And she's like, cool. Or no, she's like, if you guess my name. No, that was it. It had to do with like guessing the name. It had to do with him taking her first child. Oh. And it was like real dark.
Yeah, so he was made like a Disney movie about that.
Haven't. So he was like, yeah, I'll do this thing for you, but you have to give me your firstborn child. Okay. And she was like, cool. Like, I'm not having kids. Like, I don't know. That's never going to happen.
And then he impregnated her.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. Your face, you were like, sure. You're like, I missed that part.
What? No, I think it was like something, maybe it was like a now we're going to have to go back and read Rumpelstiltskin. But whatever happened, he was going to get the child. And then she's like, yeah, whatever. He spins the stuff into gold. And then the king ends up marrying her. And then she's like, a couple years later, she has like a baby. And then here comes Rumpelstiltskin. And he's like, you're going to get I get that baby. Right. And she's like, no. And he's like, well, if you can guess my name, I won't. I won't give you the baby. I won't take the baby. Uh-huh. And then she guesses his name. But how?
What?
Why would you guess Rumpelstiltskin?
I was going to say, at least she didn't have to name her kid Rumpelstiltskin.
It's so funny. I had a book with this story in it. And as I'm saying it, like, I can remember pictures from this book that I had when I was a kid, and I remember the part where she like does guess his name. He like gets all mad and, like
people can't see you.
I know. He does like a little mad dance or like stomp or something.
A troll dance. A troll man dance.
A troll man dance. I'm gonna have to like totally am reading Rumpelstiltskin after this. Okay.
Well.
Okay. Now after that ancient tale.
Sure.
That's our other podcast where we talk about folk tales and their impact on society.
But we don't do any research on them. We just tell you from our memories, which are stellar. Because we're like Jennifer
Well, I definitely Aniston. Never read We Are Like Jennifer Aniston with our vital proteins.
Right.
Definitely not a book I read my kids.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I think it's gone. Can it just go? Like Rumpelstiltskin? Can we just go away?
I hope.
Is that a Hans Christian Andersen?
Hans. Probably. Okay. Or,
what?
What's the other guy?
Grimm.
The Grimm Brothers? Yeah. Grimm. Like they made movies. The Grimm Brothers,
Sure. The Brothers Grimm.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So today.
Let's do it.
We're watching a movie.
Let's talk about it.
All right. It is our first on this podcast. Our first musical.
Do you know how much I love movie musicals?
Okay, I don't know if you've seen this movie.
You don't know if I've seen this movie?
I don't know if you've seen this movie.
It's a movie musical from the 80s. Mm-hmm. I mean, the only one I can think of is Annie.
It is not Annie.
Okay, shit.
It was...
I love Annie.
Okay, well, it's not Annie. So,
okay.
This movie was made in 1980.
Oh, my goodness. So it's old.
It is old.
Not like us. Not like the fresh young beauties we are. Mm-hmm.
So there was this guy, this New York City talent manager, right? Okay. And he saw the 1976 production of A Chorus Line.
Okay.
And there's a song in this movie, or in the production of Chorus Line, called Nothing.
Okay.
Where they reference a prestigious New York high school.
Okay.
And he was like, this is a great idea.
I know
I'm going to write a movie about this.
Okay. I know what movie this is.
What is it?
It's Fame.
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to make it to heaven. I'm going to learn how to fly high.
Okay.
I didn't realize it was a movie. I thought it was a TV show.
It was also a TV show.
Okay.
But this is the movie. Okay. Have you ever seen this movie?
I do not think I ever saw this movie.
Okay.
Maybe. I remember the show.
Yeah, so it became a popular television show later on. But the thing about the movie is it's a lot darker and a lot grittier than the TV show was. Like, they took out a lot of the elements, of the dark elements out of the movie and put it, and when they made the TV show, it was more just like fun times on the TV show. So, this talent manager met up with a writer. His name was Christopher Gore, and he paid him $5,000 to make a draft script. Everything was good. So they went on and they had this budget. I think it was like $8 million budget to make this movie. It ended up making $42 million at the box office. So it did really well at the box office. It was originally meant to be titled Hot Lunch.
Oh, no.
Because there's a song in the movie called Hot Lunch Jam.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm sorry. I'm not getting into that.
But the idea was that you are only guaranteed 7 classes and a hot lunch. You're not guaranteed fame or fortune or anything by going to this high school.
Okay, hot lunch.
But they changed the name because they found out hot lunch also means oral sex.
I didn't think that's what hot lunch meant.
That's what the internet said on my limited research.
I think you have to do some more. Well, no, don't do any more research.
No, I didn't want to go any further.
I think a hot lunch is something different and much more dirty.
Okay, well.
Okay, we're not getting into it.
Yeah, no, we're not getting into it.
That's not what this podcast is for.
No. So this movie was directed by Alan Parker. He also directed The Wall, Pink Floyd's The Wall.
Oh, cool.
He directed Evita.
Cool.
Mississippi's Burning.
Okay.
He's award-winning. He won 19 BAFTA awards, 10 Golden Globes, and 6 Oscars.
Okay.
This movie had 2 songs nominated for Best Song.
Okay.
Fame.
Is it the one I just sang?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Which actually won the Oscar for Best Song.
Because it's a banger.
Yeah. And there's also a song called Out Here on My Own. Okay. But when they do a dance to the song Fame.
Yes.
In the movie, it wasn't even written yet.
What do you mean? How did you dance to it?
Like they didn't have a track, they didn't have anything, so they danced to a different song, and then they laid it over afterwards after they'd written the song.
That seems impossible.
Yeah, right. So we'll have to watch.
Isn't the whole point of dancing to go along with music? I guess.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
They couldn't because they didn't have a song yet.
Okay.
But anyway.
Can I tell you something funny about that song? So when I was a kid, we used to sing that, go to my grandma's house, and we would all climb up, like take turns climbing up on top of like the railing on her back porch. And you would have to sing that song, and when you said, ha, you would jump off and do and then we would judge each other on our flying leaps off of the side of my grandma's house, so.
Well, I don't know. Obviously, I was only 3 years old when this movie came out, so I didn't watch it at that time. But it was a big deal when we were kids. Like, I remember it being in the,
popular culture.
Pop culture. So I was in color guard.
Yeah, you were.
And I was in band color guard, but I was also in indoor color guard.
Sure you were.
It's a performing art. and we were obsessed with this movie.
Really?
And we watched it. And we had our own like choreography to one of the songs and everything like that. So I became more familiar with it when I got older, and I was really surprised the first time I watched how there are some dark parts in it. It's rated R.
That's probably why I didn't watch it when I was 3 years old.
Well, probably not. So what else can I tell you about this movie? It's based off a real life high school in New York City called Fiorello LaGuardia.
Okay. And there's those kind of schools, like I know in Philadelphia, there's a school of performing arts.
Yeah, they're more popular now.
Yeah, and I remember, so I went to art school.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah. But I remember when I first went, telling people, like, I was like, oh, it's like I'm at Fame, like, because you would go and do your laundry and there'd be like people and they're just like start singing and like just doing stuff and you're just like, oh, God.
That sounds annoying.
It was, I didn't go for any of, I did not go to school for a performing arts.
Right.
That part was super fun to be around.
It came out in, like I said, came out in 1980. It actually got 3.5 stars from Ebert.
Okay.
And he said Fame is a genuine treasure.
You only gave it 3.5 stars, though?
Out of 4, though, isn't it?
Okay. I thought they did thumbs up.
I don't know.
What do you do, Ebert?
He gave it thumbs up. He gave it 3.5 thumbs up. He brought in friends, and he was like, guys, this movie's good.
Brought in a friend who had half a thumb.
Right. It was a woodshop thing. We don't want to talk about it.
That's right.
So one of the things about this movie, too, that was kind of cool at the time was that it was cast with virtually unknown people.
Did any of them become famous?
The most famous I wrote down the most famous people in the movie. Debbie Allen.
Well, she was in the show too.
Yes, Debbie Allen was also in the show.
Her.
You did?
I did when I worked in California for like a hot minute.
So she's a famous choreographer, and she's also Felicia Rashad's sister.
Okay.
From The Cosby Show wife.
I know who Felicia Rashad is. You don't need to tell me.
Not attacking
Tell
you.
the people, but not me. You really looked at me when you were saying that in a way where you thought
we
I didn't know
it was her sister.
I didn't know it was her sister, but I know who Felicia Rashad is.
God. Ann Mira.
Ann Mira, who's
Ben Stiller's mom.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah, she's in it. And then Richard Belzer's in it.
Oh, he just died recently.
He just died. Irene Cara, she has one of the leads in this movie. There's also a guy, I didn't write down his name, but I know him. You'll recognize him. He later starred in ER, the show.
Okay.
He was like a bald doctor on ER.
Anthony.
No, not Anthony Edwards. A different bald doctor on ER.
Oh, there were multiple?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
They said that Michelle Pfeiffer, Tom Cruise, Patrick Swayze, and Madonna all auditioned for or wanted to be in this movie.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
And
they passed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting.
So, yeah.
I would have put Patrick Swayze in the movie myself.
Well, then he later got Dirty Dancing, so it wasn't a big deal for him.
Okay.
Like you said, they did make a famed television show. There was a stage musical, and they made a remake in 2009.
Didn't do well.
It did not do well. It was really panned by critics. Kelsey Grammer was in it. Which probably tells you all you need to know.
I feel like I was recently talking about Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah, it came up. I was there.
Why were we talking about Kelsey Grammer and not hanging out with him?
Because he's from New Jersey, maybe?
Like, didn't someone say he was mean?
Someone did.
Okay.
Let's not just disparage Kelsey
I don't know.
I don't know him, but we were
either.
in a meeting, and someone referenced the fact that he was not that nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Allegedly. We love you, Fraser Crane.
We do love you, Fraser Crane, and I don't believe any of it.
Right. And then the writer, his name was Christopher Gore. Christopher Gore wrote the movie, and Michael Gore made all the songs for the movie, but they're not related.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, interesting. Yep. What else do you want to know?
I don't really want to know anything else. I want to watch the movie and be swept away by the fame and the grittiness of New York in the 70s, because I assume it was probably filmed in the 70s if it came out in the 80s. Yeah.
I think you're going to really love some of the songs.
Okay.
I live the body electric. Have you ever heard that song? No? Never?
Maybe. I mean, your rendition, as stirring as it was, I don't know if I've heard that one. No, I mean, I do remember this being like a huge thing. It definitely was a big deal to be like a singer dancer. I feel like, I don't know, as it always is. Maybe it hasn't always been for generations, but I feel like for at least our entire lives, people have really wanted to be performers. Like being a performer is like a big, like, I don't know if that was always the case. Like,
it's interesting. It's interesting because I think people, like we try to set people off into a certain direction, and everyone has to be like school smart and book smart and things like that. But there's so many ways to be talented And I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I don't know. I do think that it's like people are put in certain, like, they don't give people as many options as I think they should give people. Right. It's like, you can be creative, but you don't necessarily have to be a singer, dancer, performer to utilize that, or artist to utilize that creativity. And I think that that is something that when we were younger, it was kind of like, well, you're either like, if you're either a person who is like into math, and is going to do like certain like work, like, you know, be a doctor, you know, you're going to be a doctor, or you're going to be a lawyer or something like that. But if you're creative, well, you have to be in some kind of art thing. Yeah,
but you also have to have a backup.
Yeah, well, be a teacher.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
Or just have some kind of more realistic career.
Sure, certainly. But I mean, I do think that, like, my niece, for example, she is a performer.
Yeah.
And she just was like, no, like, that's what I want to be. I'm going to go do that. And to her credit, she's out there living that dream, and she's in shows and, you know, consistently getting work and doing stuff. So, I mean, it's not like the easiest thing, but what job is the easiest?
And I think this movie explores a lot of that. Like the like everyone thinks you just go to this school and you dance all the time and you have the best time and everybody's the same level of talented and everyone, you know, but it's a struggle and some people have to work harder than others.
Right. Well, I mean, I feel like in my experience, going to art school, it was very much like that, where you had people who were like, oh my gosh, like, this person is so amazingly talented, they're definitely going to make it, but they don't always.
Sure.
And then you have like other people who are just like, well, how did you even think that this was a good idea for you to do this?
Right.
Might be a waste of time and money for you to be here.
What Emily's saying is you don't have any talent.
What I'm saying is, well, I mean, but it was just going to art school was just very interesting in that, like, there definitely were people who were just like dumbfounded by their ability.
Right.
Was just like amazing. But I think another dynamic that's very interesting in a school like that is the teacher dynamic, because a lot of the people who are professors are also in the industry, like they're also artists and they're also out there auditioning and they're also out there trying to get shows in galleries, and they're also, so it's like there is this certain dynamic where it's like you're teaching people who you will be in competition with.
Well, it's funny you say that, because they talk about Debbie Allen's role in this movie, and it was actually cut back to be a smaller role because it was very evident on screen that she was more talented than a lot of the other, like, the supposed to be like the best students and the lead students. My understanding was maybe she was supposed to be a student and they made her into a teacher or something like that, because she was like so much more talented than other people.
Was Debbie Allen, like, she was truly a Broadway star?
She was truly a choreographer dancer. Yeah.
Wow.
So remember, I think that she's in the episode of The Cosby Show where Claire takes the tap classes.
Challenge. Isn't that the one where Bill Cosby does like the tap dancing with like the old man who's
I don't
the tap
know,
dancer?
Maybe, I don't know, but I think Debbie Allen's the teacher, because I think Claire's trying to like lose weight or something like that, because that was a popular theme in 80s shows always. But and she like is taking all these tap classes, and I feel like Debbie Allen is the teacher in that episode.
But
I can check for you.
Okay, well, you check that.
But we're going to talk about The Cosby Show as little as possible.
It's such a hard thing, though, because it is, you know, I talk about this with one of my friends a lot, because both she and I watched Bill Cosby himself a lot. So it's like we both grew up just quoting that movie all the time, which is like a very famous stand-up special. Yeah. And so I still quote it in my head. Like, there's definitely times, a lot, where I want to quote things from that movie and from that thing. And it's like, well, I mean, it doesn't take away the fact that it was funny and that it was a part of my, and even The Cosby Show was a huge part of our upbringing.
The Cosby Show was a huge show for me. I remember my mom always being like, your parents, we're not the Huxtables. Like, she would be like, get so mad at me because I wanted something that was like, you know.
Sure, we're not the Huxtables. You're not the Huxtables.
No.
You're the Tweeds.
That's right. God damn it. Act like it.
All right, well, let's go watch this movie. I'm excited to watch it and then talk about it.
Sounds good.
Woo!
Confidently controversial. All right, guys, we're really excited because we have to tell you about
Blue Wire Media.
Woo!
Blue Wire is an award-winning, full-service marketing agency and production company that helps businesses succeed. How did they do that, Kim?
How?
They do that with videos, photos, websites, social media production stuff. They do consulting, design. These guys are full service for all of your marketing needs.
Yes, and I can tell you personally, firsthand, that I have worked with Mr. Steven Aceto, who is the owner, operator, business creator, extraordinaire,
all of those things,
of Blue Wire Media. And he's just one of my favorite people to work with because he's a really creative person, and he's always taken every project that we've worked on to the next level. So go check out Blue Wire Media at bluewiremedia.com/cc and learn more about all the great things that Blue Wire can do for you. Do it.
Confidently controversial.
All right, we're back.
And
we sing the body electric. Well, that was, it was so gritty and so real.
Stop saying gritty.
It was highly gritty. We just have to real quick talk about the fact that, so where Kim lives, it's like a condo. So there's 2 parking spots. And usually in the wintertime, the neighbors aren't around, so I always just park in the driveway. And today, Kim told me when I came over that I could park in the neighbor's parking spot because, you know, there's a lot of people down here. So that's what I did. In the middle of the movie, the neighbors came home. And I had to run downstairs, and I had to go, like, move my car and do, like, an awkward wave. And then I panicked, and I didn't even park after I pulled out and just drove away.
You just left. I was like, oh, there she goes.
I literally just drove around the block, and then I thought to myself, well, hopefully this is enough time for them to get in the house so I don't have to see them and talk to them at all. Yeah. And apologize.
Don't worry. I'll think about this and assume they just hate me for a while. So, you know.
Whatever.
It was equally damaging to both of us.
Then I had, like, anxiety parking, like, where I reparked was behind your car, and then I'm worried. I know. I'm in a bad place
It's
right
a whole
now.
thing. But
okay.
Let's talk about Fame.
Let's talk about this movie. So I definitely never saw this movie.
Okay.
It's very... It reads very 70s to me. I mean, if it came out in 1980, then it was definitely filmed in the 70s.
Yes.
It definitely has that feel to it. I think what was very interesting to me watching it was, as I previously said, going to art school. Right. It definitely made me think about that a lot. And it was very similar in just the aspect of, you know, that is the thing. You're in school and there's people who are like fully going to school for dancing and for acting and for all these other things. My roommates, my freshman year at UArts were both musical theater majors.
Oh, God.
Which is great for me.
Sure.
And I fully remember them coming back to the, to our dorm and just like being like, yeah, I cried today in class. And it was like happened all the time that they would come back and be like, I cried today. And I was like, oh my God, if I cried in class, that would just like, I'd have to drop out.
Right.
Sounds awful to me.
Yeah.
But it was like that where they're just like fully getting in touch with their emotions. And
well, it's
everything.
done like you see, like, so it starts out with the audition process to get into this high school. Which not one of these kids was in high school.
They're all like 30-year-old professionals.
But, and then it goes basically through freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year.
And that's the only linearness to this.
Yeah, it's
movie.
kind of, and it's interesting because I kept thinking about it. I was like, I wonder how, like, I would be interested to see how this movie was laid out because it's so many little vignettes and so many little glimpses. Like, it goes back and forth and all around. Whereas just like sometimes you'll be watching it and you'll have just had this like poignant scene and then it'll just be like 4 people in a room playing the cello.
Yeah, like I feel like this was definitely someone's concept. This was a concept film for sure. Yeah. And I think it is definitely more artistic. It took me a little bit to orient myself to that because I feel like the beginning, you know, I thought that was just the beginning of the movie because it's very like, you know, you're kind of meeting new characters here and there.
Lots of cuts,
lots of things happening. And I just thought, oh, well, that's the beginning. Then it's going to like suddenly coalesce around these like three people and it's going to jump into like a storyline.
Right.
But there isn't like a storyline like that. It's kind of like a loose storyline of these characters and them going, like I said, the only thing linear about this is that you have the conceit of freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior years.
You see these kids audition, and then we see a lot of kids audition, and we follow a few of them through, and but we don't ever see we don't really see a full package on anyone.
No, we don't see a full package in this movie. We see someone's boobs.
Multiple people's boobs.
We see there's a lot of boobs, but no packages.
No.
There's, I think it's, again, I wonder if it shouldn't have been college and not high school.
Yeah.
Because it being high school, it just kept taking me out of it in that, like, this was, again, like, they're older, which in a lot of ways is good. You don't you would not want to have a real 18-year-old, like, doing that scene that Coco does at the end of this where she's, like, essentially going, like, a casting couch thing. And it's not real.
Yeah, the guy
just got to, she has to, like, take her shirt off, and it's awful. You wouldn't want an actual 17 or 18-year-old even acting in that and putting that on screen. But I do feel like even the story arc of this is like, okay, you're starting out freshman, you don't really know what you want to do. You're just kind of getting into this thing. And then by the end of it, like, the one guy is like a working comedian.
Right.
And they're really, like, the other guy's like, well, I'm being asked to be in this company. Like a dance company, a professional dance. And the other woman's like, well, she's been asked to be in the San Francisco Ballet.
Yeah, but do you think that was real?
In real life?
No, not in real life. I mean, her storyline, she got pregnant.
She did.
And she was kind of, like, losing her mind a little bit in the doctor's office waiting room.
To get an abortion.
Right.
Yeah.
But she was going... she was, like, saying all this stuff out loud, like, blah, 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 blah. I got asked to do this thing because I wouldn't want to do this thing, and it would be crazy to do this thing. I'd be bored to death. And, like, she was clearly, like, having
I thought it was real. I didn't think it wouldn't be.
I don't know.
I thought it was real. But anyway, like, I do think that was a little bit strange that they chose for it to be high school students and not... Because in real life, a freshman is, like, a little baby.
Yeah. Yeah, these were definitely... adults making adult choices and adult decisions. But then again, in the 80s, I definitely think kids are different.
Well, I wrote that down too. Like, was a 16-year-old considered older than it is now? Because I do think that as... And I know people have talked about that, how, this youth culture has now made it that, like, this extended childhood where a 16-year-old today definitely still feels like a kid.
Well, sure. I think that, I think you were given more responsibility from an earlier age. Like, we all babysat when we were, like, 11 and 12 years old.
Sure.
And, you babysat for kids that were sometimes babies.
Oh, yeah, like, I babysat for, like, a full baby.
Yeah, full-on baby.
Yeah. Like, nobody should have left me with that child. These parents were like, I'm going out drinking.
No, I always talk about it, too. Like, I would go to these people's houses to babysit, this person's house to babysit, and they'd be like, oh, the kids are just swimming in the pool. It'll be fine. It's just like, okay.
Yeah, meanwhile, I'm in their cupboard stealing all their food.
I just want snacks.
And they always have better snacks.
And to write my novel. That's what I would do at night.
Would you?
Yeah.
You would write?
When the kids would go to bed. I would just write my notebook. I would write my stories.
I would sometimes freak myself out, and I would have to have my mom come or sister
way.
come over.
Of course you did.
Yeah, there's some stories of that happening. Getting scared.
Then the guy would come. Then, like, they would come home, and the dad would be, like, intoxicated and drive me home.
Yeah, that's just what happened all the time. But, or the mom. But it was mostly the dad.
The dad.
Yeah, but never anything weird ever happened.
No, it wasn't weird. It was just like he was, like, the whole car smelled like alcohol.
Oh, see, I don't even know if I would have clocked that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, for sure.
No. But anyway, let's talk about this
Those
movie.
people weren't in fame.
Yes. So I wrote from the beginning that this, like, in my notes for this, I wrote the competitiveness at the very beginning, because the beginning of the movie is auditions.
Yes.
So people are really wanting to make it into this thing, and right from the very beginning, I just start to feel the anxiety of the whole thing. Like, it gave me the competitiveness of the whole thing. Yeah. You definitely felt the anxiety of that process. They really, like, it's in New York City. And I feel like it was interesting to see, like, the one kid comes in and he's got a knife. And the teacher's like, Helen Mirren's like, give me that knife or whatever. And he's like, okay.
He's like, what, are you going to steal it?
Right.
Well, I think that was the interesting part because you get the vibe. This is not a private performing arts high school.
No,
this is a public performing arts high school. So you have, and I think a lot of people in the community saw this as an opportunity to get out of
wherever they
were.
I thought that was an interesting aspect too, that they did show the parents and how the parents were really pushing their kids in these directions, and like you said, really did see it as a way for their kids to get ahead, to go further. Although it's interesting because you saw that with the white students, like you only saw the parents, I think, of the white students.
Yes.
You did not see, in fact, the one black student, Leroy, amazing dancer.
Yes.
Who both Kim and I were saying, like, why was this guy not in other things?
Yeah,
he was so cute and he was so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like by today's...
There was a lot of talented people in this
There were
movie.
a ton of talented people, but I feel like that guy was definitely a standout. He was exceptional. Yes. Mm-hmm. And I really feel like in today's day and age, this guy would be like a ginormous star.
Right, well, you'd have like a TikTok and he'd be
my God, like he was amazing.
But was he homeless?
Yes, they imply that he's homeless, and then there's the other guy who he's Puerto Rican,
right?
But
and his name's Raul, but he changes his name to Ralph, and his last name's Garcia, but he changes to Garcia because he's trying to blend.
Right, and they kind of show where he lives, which is like the Bronx, South Bronx, very like he lives in a bad part of town where like his sister gets attacked, like
and he always prefers to her. He's like, I live with my 2 chicks.
I thought that was cute.
Yeah, and the 2 chicks are his sisters, his little sisters.
Yes, it was very cute. Yeah, I liked him. I didn't like how at the end they made him like be a junkie
so he
at
was
the
like
end.
taking the drugs of the other kid who is going to an analyst, which is what they call a therapist.
Sure.
He's
gay.
And he was gay, and he fell in love with his analyst.
Sure. They kind of that's the problem when you have so many people that they're trying to get into the lives of, like, I wanted to know more about him and his mom, who's like famous and kind of like left him alone to like live by himself in an apartment literally in Times Square, it looks like. Yeah. And so he's there and he's gay and he has an analyst, and like I wanted to know more about him. I wanted to know more about all of them, but there was no time for that.
No, and he says something about his analyst to his friend, and she's like, what's wrong with you? Immediately. But then also, are we to assume he sees an analyst because he's gay?
I don't know. Like, it sounds like he's got a pretty weird life, like, where his mom, it sounds like his dad just left when he was young. His mom is a working actress who just, like, leaves him alone for long stretches of time. And he's been in military schools for most of his life, and now he's in this school. So it just seems like but I would have liked to know more. But instead of giving us more time with these characters, you know what they did?
What?
They showed an entire scene of another movie within this movie.
Yeah, for no reason.
For no reason other than it was a Rocky Horror Picture Show, other than showing people, I guess, how much a part of...
But then that girl, Dominique Doris, she goes up and she, like, gets a little high and then, like, is able to, like, be her true self, her authentic self, and, like, jump up on the stage.
Right, but I feel like they could have shown that without showing... I mean, it was very... did you ever go to one of those where they show the Rocky Horror Picture Show? I would love to.
Yeah, we need to do that.
I only saw that movie for the first time, like, recently.
Really?
And I didn't know what it was. And I started watching it with my daughter, and then I was just like, oh,
yeah,
no. This isn't the fun that I thought it was going to be for my daughter.
Fun.
The music is great.
Yeah.
That's a musical, Kim. You know it's not a musical?
What?
This movie is not a musical.
Why?
There's some songs in it, but I wouldn't call it a musical.
It's a musical.
A musical to me has, like... Go watch the film version of Les Mis. Go watch Oliver. Watch Annie. There's more songs in it, and the songs are driving the story.
Right.
This is just like they sing because, I mean, I would hope they would because they're going to performing arts school.
Well, yeah, there's a certain part where like the one dude is singing, and I'm just like, I want to fast forward this part. Like, it's making me uncomfortable, first of all.
Yes.
And second of all, it's not doing anything for the storyline. But just real quickly, I want to ask you this. So it was a big deal that this kid was gay. And he was going to tell the class that he was gay.
Yes, because their assignment was you had to talk about something that's like a really painful thing from your life.
But my question to you is, this is a performing arts high school in New York City. This is the first gay child that they've seen?
No, I'm sure most of the faculty is probably gay.
Right.
Like, come on. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's funny to me that it's like a thing.
But it probably, that didn't bother me as much because I do feel like when you're young, stuff like that is a super big deal. And like you are discovering yourself and you are kind of deciding who you're going to be in your life. And it's like him proclaiming that is a big deal.
I just wonder, I feel like if anywhere it would have been just common and fine and not a big fucking deal. It would be at Performing Arts School, New York City.
Absolutely. Well, I always, again, going back to my experience in college, so going back to my roommates. So my one roommate was from Georgia. Mm-hmm. And so she came to the school, and then there was 2 other people from her high school who were also in the school. Uh-huh. And they were both dancers. Uh-huh. And like, I don't know if they were dance majors or musical theater, but I know they danced a lot. Mm-hmm. And so they came over a couple times and like would come visit in our dorm room. And like for the first time I met these guys, like gay.
Sure.
Like, you know, from the beginning. And I remember talking to my roommate and just being like, oh, well, they're gay, right?
Right, yeah.
And she was just like, I know, well, I mean, I didn't even realize it until we got here. And like, you know, because he played Kaniki in Greece. And I was just like, oh. But like, I always think about those guys because it was like, well, they were, because she would talk about where they were from Cobb County, Georgia. And Cobb County, Georgia, it wasn't allowed to be gay. Oh, God. And so I always felt like, oh, these poor guys, or these guys are here and they're experiencing this thing and they're getting to like be themselves and really like step out and really feel who they are, which I always thought was pretty great.
That is pretty great.
And I wonder where they are now because they were exceptional. They were very good. Both of them. So, yay, those boys.
What are they doing?
What are they doing now? Are they still dancing? But just getting back to the conceit of our show, which is like, you know, people watching this at the time, what were the messages being sent to people? You know, I think they were trying to do good with this and really show a realism with it that I do think is admirable. And if not I don't know if they executed well on it. Like, it's its own thing and, you know, whatever. But interesting as a snapshot of the times. Like, there's certainly, even though this cast is wonderfully diverse.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of beautiful in that sense, in that it has all kinds of different, you know, shapes and sizes of people, all different types of ethnicities and everything else. Like, it's wonderful. But I also think it's very real in terms of the teachers who, specifically, like the Helen Mirren character.
Yeah. That's not Helen Mirren. That's Anne Mirren.
Anne Mirren. Sorry. Sorry, Helen Mirren. Whatever. But yeah, she's like, she calls the guy, has the black kid has Leroy has a radio that he brings to class. Is Leroy great? He's not, in a lot of ways.
Not a great student.
Not a great student.
Great dancer.
But she doesn't take a minute to be like, listen, you can't read. And that's a problem that I'm going to have to help you with. She just yells at him about it. Right. She calls his radio a ghetto blaster.
Yeah, and she tells him to read Othello because there's a black character in it.
Right, like she's really just like, and I don't know if that's on purpose that they wanted her to be, because he even says at the end, he's like, you say, you know, you tout yourselves for helping all of us, but then you don't really care about our lives, and you don't even care about the fact that, like, I don't even have a home. Like, I've been homeless.
Yeah,
for
you're
this
more
whole
worried
time.
about this other thing.
Yeah, you're more worried about me learning to read than you are me just in my life and everything. Yeah. And I have this opportunity now. Like, at the end, he has this, like, confrontation with her, and that's where it's kind of confusing, because it's like, you know, there's no black or white in terms of, like, good and bad in this movie.
No.
Everything is kind of very gray area. And even that Anne Mira character she's not bad altogether. When he confronts her, she's in the hospital because her husband has died.
Or is sick.
I don't know. Again, so many characters in this movie. You don't even get to know half of the stuff that's going on with these people. But yeah, he goes in to confront her about that, and you can't just 100% be on his side with it. you know? It's like he's making good points.
But I think that's the point, Emily. There's very complicated relationships in the world. It's not just black and white. There's a lot of crossover. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of answers.
Oh, there's a lot of messages happening in this movie, for sure. And I didn't hate it.
Okay.
I mean, it's what it is. I mean, I really think that they tried to get at the reality of what it is to be young and to be figuring out what you're trying to be, and that it's okay to be different and to want to do these different kind of things, and it's okay to kind of like explore those topics and talk about them and try and figure it out. I like that part of it.
Free to be you and me.
Certainly free to be you and me. So I don't know, I liked it.
Okay, what did you think of the I mean, I feel like the songs are pretty good. I mean, most of them. A lot of them are good. The Fame song's good. The Hot Lunch Jam is good.
I don't know if I like the Hot Lunch Jam.
Sing the Body Electric is
it's
good.
I like Sing the Body Electric once they get beyond the terrible soloist they have in the beginning.
Yeah.
The one soloist is good. There's like a genuinely amazing singer in this, that woman Coco.
Yeah.
She's great.
Irene Cara.
Yeah, like she's fantastic.
Yeah.
And the other two that they give solos to, it's like you didn't have any better singers at this Performing Arts Academy. Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
But I did enjoy, like, when they did Fame in the street and they're all dancing.
Yeah.
Like, that's great.
I look forward to the day that I'm just driving down the street and people start dancing on the hood of my car.
Oh, if only that happened. The joy that I would have. Have you ever, like, done that, like, in life? Have you ever run into, like, a performance somewhere?
I mean...
In Disney.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's where it happens. But I love that about Disney, where you're just, like, wandering around and all of a sudden there's, like, acrobats in the streets.
It's meant to happen there. You act like this is... You're not just walking down the street. It happened to us once. Remember when we ran into the Mummers Parade by accident?
Oh, yeah, that was great. See, the joy of that moment. Yeah. I remember there was somebody who just... Like, when I was in Philadelphia, this guy just went to Rittenhouse Square and started playing the bagpipes.
Okay.
And I remember it was like, oh, like, look at that. I enjoy this.
Look at this guy.
I enjoy this stuff. And people bringing some joy and life to the street. Although, you know, let's be honest, if you were in that, like, in traffic and all of a sudden all these, like, high school kids are dancing all over your car, you'd be like, guys, I appreciate the joy that you're bringing to the world right now. Don't lose that light. But can you just take it to the sidewalks?
Don't lose that light, but just move out of the right place.
Just move out of the way.
I have a place to be.
I have a place to be because I am old and I don't have that light anymore. So you're going to have to move aside. But I appreciate you.
Good job.
Good job. Keep dancing. This song is good, boy that wrote it. It's very, very good. So, very, very interesting with the kind of like, they do set it up like very youth versus adults in this as well.
And then there's like, I mean, there's some obviously problematic parts. Like they're like climbing in the bathroom to look through the vents, which I feel like a popular 80s thing that happened all the time.
Sure. Well, I don't think that's as bad as like when Leroy is dancing for his audition in the beginning and he's very like dancing like you would in a club, and he's dancing very provocatively, like almost strippery, like shaking his butt in front of the and the teachers are just like kind of ogling him a little bit. Which that's the only part that Debbie Allen did in this movie.
I thought she must be on the show.
She was a big part of the show. Yeah. And the one other teacher, I remember him from the show.
Yeah, the
as
older
well.
gentleman.
The dance teacher was so mean.
Yeah, but that happens in other
it.
movies too. Like, have you ever seen the movie Center Stage?
No.
This movie reminds me a lot of that movie. Like, there's a lot of crossover. Excellent dance movie.
I mean, I do love a dance movie. I do love some dancing, but yeah, I think it was the over the topness of how mean people are. I just go to a place like a lot when I see these kind of things where it's like, do you have to be mean like that to get across to
real
people?
Life, Emily. Real life isn't easy.
But in real life, I know it's not easy. But why do those teachers have to go to a place of like mean in order to feel like they're getting through to people?
Well, because I think that girl, so particularly we're talking about that girl Lisa that basically is trying to be a dancer, and they come up to her, like the teacher's like telling her, like, you need to try harder, you need to be better, you need to become prepared, you need to pay attention. Multiple times she says this to her.
And she doesn't do it.
And guess what happens?
You get, okay, you're right. You're right.
You gotta listen. You can't just coast.
Okay.
This is the performing arts. High school, Emily.
Sorry, I'll try harder next time, Kim. I didn't mean to. Didn't this remind you of a lot from our childhood. I do like that New York City look, like Sesame Street was like that, which like a big part of our growing up. And I also, like we were just saying, like this movie is wonderfully diverse. I feel like Sesame Street was also like that.
I love to. I liked watching the clothes in it too, because it was just like, there were so many different dynamics, so many different styles. Like there were so many men in tank tops, so many men in skinny strapped tank tops,
and in like belly shirts
and shorty shorts,
and a lot of male leg,
a lot of leg
happened in this movie, and with the girls with all like the leotards and it was I did really like the style.
And so if someone tells you, Emily, right now, if someone told you, you make things hotter, what's your response supposed to be?
I make things hotter?
Yeah.
Thank you.
No.
What is it?
What can I do? It's just what I do. There's a point where the girl gets complimented in this movie in that way, and she just like rolls with it. She just accepts that compliment.
I love it.
I know.
It's beautiful. Confidence. It's a beautiful thing, except the guy that was complimenting her was gross, right?
I don't know.
Wasn't that the guy?
There was a lot of guys. There were a lot of we had to pause this movie a couple times. There was things happening.
There's a lot of things happening this morning. This movie is long.
Mm-hmm. It is very long.
It's a little longer than, Kim and I have the capacity for with our old brains, but we did have to take a few pauses. There was there was a few different things happening, but we made it to the end, and I'm glad that I watched it. And I did think there were several times, because of the tone of this film, there were several times within the film that I thought someone was going to kill themselves by jumping in front of a subway car.
Yeah, and I had to explain to Emily that it's just a form of transportation that people use every single day.
But they had the one they were trying to make it seem like she
might have.
And I really felt like this movie was not going to end without one of them committing suicide.
She should have killed herself. No, don't say
that. Don't say that. Why would you do that?
I'm sorry.
Well, you're going to be thinking about that one for the rest of your life.
Sorry, guys. I take it back.
You do. No, she shouldn't. Nobody did, and nobody should. And it was...
Jesus.
Come on. It's a movie you're talking about. You would never say that about anything in real life. Oh, my gosh. It's Suicide Prevention Month, Kim.
It is. I'm sorry. I was just trying to be funny, and it wasn't funny.
It's okay. It happens to the best of us. Right now, we're going to analyze what it is to have anxiety after you say something weird. Because when you're talking a lot, sometimes you say something weird.
Weird stuff happens.
But you know what? It doesn't mean that you really think that.
It's true.
Or that you really wish that on anyone.
No.
Right. It's fine. And I'm telling this to everybody out there listening who has ever said something weird, which is everyone. Everyone has said something weird at one time or another. Okay?
Guys, listen, I use comedy. It's a defense mechanism. I have to go see my analyst.
It's okay. Okay?
Okay.
You feel okay?
Yeah, fine.
Okay, because I can tell that you're not feeling okay right now that you said that. And I want you to feel better about it.
I do.
Okay. It happens. Okay. We say weird stuff sometimes, and I don't hold it against you. It's okay.
All right.
Okay. So, anything else to say about this non-musical movie?
It's a musical. There were at least 7 songs.
No, there weren't.
Yeah.
Sing the Body Electric, the Hot Lunch,
the Fame. The one that Irene Cara sings by herself.
Yes.
Then the one that the boy sings by himself.
It's 5 songs.
And then there was some other cello songs. All right.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that we watched this movie.
Yeah.
It was a good one.
You're glad?
I am glad. I'm glad. I've never seen it before. I'm glad that I watched it.
Well, good. So, are you ready for to connect that Spader?
Oh man,
it's hard.
I'm sure that it was. I wonder how old James Spader was, and if he ever auditioned for this movie.
I don't know, but I woke up this morning and I was like, oh no, I forgot to do this. So
I always forget it too.
This is the first thing I did this morning, so I was deep diving. First thing.
Okay, you just woke up. You haven't had any coffee. You're laying in bed.
Yeah. So this is what I got.
Okay.
All right. So Debbie Allen was in this movie.
Briefly,
but she was in it.
She was.
You saw her.
I did.
And she was also in a movie called Blank Check.
Oh, what was that?
It was like a kids movie.
Kind of vaguely remember that.
So the kid in that movie was Brian Bonsall, who was on Family Ties. He was the little brother on Family Ties.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Brian Bonsall, Family Ties, with Michael J. Fox.
True.
All true so far.
So far, so true.
Great. So far, so true. Michael J. Fox was in Back to the Future with Leah Thompson.
Yes.
Leah Thompson was in Some Kind of Wonderful.
Yes.
With Eric Stoltz.
Okay. Wow. Is this 6 Degrees?
This is deep. Yeah.
Okay.
And Eric Stoltz was in a movie that was made in 1983 called A Killer in the Family with James Spader.
Oh, there he is. Yeah. Popping up left and right.
So this is a full 6.
That's, well, sometimes you gotta go full 6. You gotta go deep.
Yeah.
With Spader.
And we did.
We did. Well, this was a good one. I really had fun with this. And, guys, you should follow us on Instagram if you aren't already.
At Confidently Controversial.
And you should also follow us on the TikTok at Confidently Contro. You should go to YouTube. Maybe you are listening to this on YouTube, which is great. You should subscribe. And, I don't know. Is there anything else I have to tell the people?
Just to be confident. Be more confident, even if you say a stupid thing.
Yeah. It's okay.
It's okay. I mean, you shouldn't be like, I said what I said and I meant it.
You shouldn't turn into JFK.
Right.
You shouldn't do that. But you also, with the controversy stuff,
you gotta give yourself a break sometimes.
Give yourself a break sometime, right. And if you say something controversial, even if it's by accident, just if it was wrong, say you're sorry, and if you stand by it. But you don't stand by that statement. Okay, it's done now. It's done. We're gonna stop recording. It's gonna be done. But we love you guys, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Controversial.